Hi, ladies. Amy Cummings here with the Authentic Woman podcast. So happy to be with you today. So happy to bring to you both a dear friend and a fellow mother, wife, entrepreneur, Catholic, businesswoman. She just does it all. A mom of many, and Annie Grandell. She's from the Twin Cities here, and we've known each other a long time, and have been encouraging each other in our roles as Catholic women in ministry, in the church, and in what God is calling us to do. So, welcome, Annie.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I'm super happy to be here today.
Me too. Me too. For our guests who don't know you, or for our listeners who don't know you, give us
Yeah.
a little bit of your, just a quick overview of your life, married, children, all
Mhm.
of that.
Yeah. So I live here in Minnesota, not too far from you. And I work for Net Ministries. I've been working here for the last 3 years, question mark. That feels right. Um, we live in a time vortex after 2020. I don't even know.
Yeah, right.
Um, but I work here as the director of Y Disciple.
Mm.
And but before all of that, I'm a wife and a mom. My husband Jason and I have been married for 8 years, and we have 4 children. They are okay. So we've been married almost 9 years. Wow, when did that happen? Um, our kids are 8, 6, 4, and 2. Just boom, 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 little stair steps all the way down. Everyone's got a built-in playmate. They came in pairs. Like my first two are girls, my second two are boys. So it's like I got nothing to do here. You guys just entertain yourselves. Um, I love that you said that we've been encouraging each other. I feel like that's like been a one-way street for me because
Oh.
it's been years of me being like, okay, it's okay. Amy's doing it. It's okay. I'm gonna be okay.
Oh my goodness. Well, good to know that you see on the outside. You don't see, like, I feel like I'm jumping off the cliff and I'm like, Lord, build me wings. I have no idea what I'm doing. Give me
That's
wings.
life, man.
Right. We paddle underneath, we paddle underneath. So I admire how you juggle life. I always have, like, you're always involved, you're giving, you're a woman who is striving to
Mm,
be the woman that God created you to be and to bring your unique gifts to the world.
oh,
And
thank you.
would you say that's been intentional on your part, that you're striving to live that kind of a life, or like, oh well, that's how it looks on the outside?
Isn't it always both and?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we're striving, but the key word there is striving,
Mhm.
and failing and falling and getting back up again. Um, Juggling is always an interesting word,
Right.
because there's always something that, like, you only have 2 hands. If you're juggling, there's something that's just literally in the air.
Oh.
So, um, but yeah, no, it is intentional, and I'm the kind of person that I do well with structure,
Mm,
and being a working mom kind of forces that structure for
yeah.
me. I was actually just having a conversation with my husband recently. Every night we do night prayer together. And before anyone's like, oh, look at that. Like, it took us about 8 years to start doing night prayer together, like with any regularity. But we're doing okay right now. Um, and we just added to it. He actually got this from a tip from a priest in confession, that during the examination of conscience part, it's, instead of just being quiet and reflecting, we tell each other, what is one thing I am grateful for today? What is
Mm.
one thing I am sorry for? Which is almost always something we did to the children. Like, it is, it's, it's almost always like, oh, I could have been more patient.
Yes.
And then, did we pray today? Like, did we have our own personal prayer today?
Mm.
And I was just saying recently, like, as I'm getting into more of a rhythm these days, I realize that I get my personal prayer without fail on work days. Um,
Ah.
because I get up at a certain time and I need to get my kids out the door to school at a certain time. And so there's just a rhythm to those days, which makes it a lot better for my prayer life. Days that I work from home, like, if I haven't gotten out of my sweatpants by noon, the odds of me like having 15 minutes of personal prayer are pretty low. That's
Oh,
that's just me, everyone's wired so differently.
oh,
This is good for me.
yeah. And are you a morning person, prayer gal? I mean, like, if you don't get it in like me, I can do it other times of the day. It has to be much more intentional.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I'm much more distracted by the comings and goings of the day
Mhm,
than which I've been good at for quite a little while now. So thank you, Jesus. But getting up in the morning and those
mhm.
30 minutes, before anyone else gets up, before the coffee's even been made, actually, I'm like, no, I just go right to yeah, yeah.
You are so much holier than I am. I was
Oh
like,
no.
"Jesus, I'm coming. Just give me a minute." And he's like, "I get you, girl." Like, he
Oh
was
my
fully
gosh.
human too. He gets it.
Oh,
Um,
he does. You know what? He really does. And I think that we need to give ourselves more grace in that. I think
yeah.
as perfectionists, and I think I could call is that would that be we're recovering perfectionists? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a
I think
perfectionist. I'm not that good at it. How's that?
I like that. I like
I
that.
need to
Yeah.
perfect my perfectionism. Hmm.
Perfect. Imperfect progress. That was my word. It's my phrase for 2021 was imperfect
I
progress.
like it. I like
Right?
it.
Just doing
Yeah.
it and failing forward fast and learning from
Yes.
it, you
Yep.
know?
But yeah,
Um,
no, I'm with you. Like that morning is so critical. There's Beth Moore is Christian Bible study writer. She's got some great stuff out there. But she always gives this advice that when you pray, do it first thing in the morning because otherwise just things push it back. But also to turn on just enough light, like
oh yeah.
to read the word of God.
Yeah.
Like just enough because as soon as the light's on, you see the mess that's in the living room or the dishes piled up. Like even that very practical thing is so helpful
Mm,
to me. Um
that's a
and
great tip. That is
isn't
a
it?
really great tip. We don't need the whole house lit up, right? Because
Right.
again, it's distraction.
Yep.
I love that. I'm going to try that going forward. I have a little lamp, but I tend to turn on like the big lights in the room, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, awesome. So, with your 4 little kiddos and being a wife and a working mom outside the home, what is your biggest challenge for struggle for in life? Just like in living that life full of grace, what is your biggest challenge?
Life.
Just life.
All of the things.
All of the things. All of the
No,
things. Right.
no, it looks like chaos, I'm sure, to the outside person. Our after school nanny was staying back, and she and I were just chatting the other day, and kids are interrupting every 3 seconds, and she
Mhm.
says to me, "Does your life ever feel like a press conference?" Because it's you walk in and it's just this constant chatter, and you're like, "Stop, pause. You get to go. All right, now chatter, chatter, chatter. Now pause. You get to go." Isn't that funny?
That's awesome. What a great way to describe it, right?
Yes,
A
my life
mom's
is a
life.
press conference.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, I would say the biggest challenge in that is, I know I will speak in the first person, um, when I am doing a lot of things, and I'm doing them well, I forget I need the Lord.
Oh, wow.
It's we've
Yes.
got a good rhythm to our life. Our kids are doing really well. Work is successful. Even things like my prayer life is going well. Um, when I am when I'm doing things well, when things are going, and even though it looks crazy, the fact that it keeps moving and nothing is started on fire is a success, right? um, and in that, I forget that I'm not the one in control.
Yeah.
Um, that's to me, that's the biggest challenge is remembering whose I am.
Remembering whose you are, and that is so important, and it's our worth, right? It's about
Mhm.
being worthy, it's
Yeah.
about our dignity, it's about our self-image, and
Mhm.
all of the things that I think a lot of women struggle with. A lot of women struggle without those key elements,
Yeah.
and it's way easier to remember the Lord and cry out to Him when things aren't going well, right?
Mhm.
When you
Yeah.
don't know how you're gonna pay the next bill
Yep.
or right? Or maybe your childcare has fallen through or you've
Yep.
lost your job. I mean, so many families have had to pivot in the last year, right? Last year and
Yes.
a half. And so those are times I think we like automatically just pray, 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 Lord, and please give me the
Mhm.
answer I want, that I want.
Yeah.
But like you said, when things are going well and
Mhm.
you have this little season, right, of everything going well, you're like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, so I got this. And it's
Yeah.
really like, no, the Lord's like, I had got you.
Yeah. And even when things aren't going well, I'm gonna be the one that fixes it. My
Yes.
child how many times have you and I talked about childcare? Like, how many, like, panic text messages have we sent back and forth to one
Yes.
another? But I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna find somebody in my network, and it's me.
Yep. Yep.
Even so in the highs and in the lows, it's so easy when you're a doer to forget,
Yeah.
um, who's in
So true.
charge.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, absolutely. What is something that you do or you tell yourself, Annie, when you are have to pivot? Something happened, right? So, maybe you forgot to take something out for supper, or you have the situation of childcare fell through, or a child wakes up with a fever and can't
Mhm.
go to school or childcare. Um, what do you do in those moments that help you to bring your best to that moment?
Mm, yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think I'm still learning,
Mhm.
how to not panic in the moment. One of the things I realized recently is I need to not make my stress my kids' stress, right?
Yes.
Yesterday, our our childcare provider, went into labor and had a baby, and it was so exciting, and we had arranged for a nanny to come as soon as that happened, but there's also another family from daycare that's gonna be coming to our house, and I wasn't prepared for that other family to be coming, like, my room where their kid was gonna be napping was a mess, and I didn't have the pack and play set up, and it was, like, 10 minutes before the kids had to go to school, and I started running around, I started barking at my kids, like, "Get your shoes on! Why is it so hard to get your shoes on?" As I'm, like, sweating, trying to get everything ready, and I had to stop and say, "This isn't their problem.
Right,
This isn't their stress."
right.
Not that we should internalize all those things and just, like,
No, no.
hold on to ourselves, but how can I be generous with other people in those moments instead of putting on my ups and downs on them?
Mhm, mhm.
There's
Yeah.
healthy ways to deal with it that aren't stuffing and aren't dumping on a 6-year-old because
Right, right.
I think we can all agree that that's not healthy either.
Yeah. No, no, never, never, never. I think you bring up such an important point that the example of yes, we bring it to our children, but have found that I bring it to conversations at work, like one
Mhm.
problem from a client, I might bring into another problem or with a client or another conversation with
Yeah.
a colleague. Even with my husband, this happened recently where I my proportion of response was out of
Mm.
line for the moment, and so I got upset and, said some things that weren't very charitable, and I had a little bit of time afterwards to reflect about it. I'm like, "Oh, it was because I had a conversation a little bit earlier with
Mhm.
a wife, a friend whose marriage was on the rock is on the rocks," and so I kind of, I brought
Yeah.
that emotion and those
Yeah.
frustrations to that conversation with my husband. And for me, though, what just has been so enlightening is a year ago that wouldn't have been me to take the time to reflect back
Oh,
on
yeah.
why did that happen, right? What
Yep.
was the trigger? How do I need to recalibrate or pivot with grace and
Mhm.
like you said, not stuff it, but go, this is not the time for me to maybe process that.
Correct.
Right? And
Yep.
then to say, "Nope, I'm gonna be present right now with this person and leave
Mhm.
all of that anger, frustration, angst, emotion."
Yeah.
And that's a gift. That's a skill. That's a skill set to learn, and I'm like you, I'm still learning it too,
Yep.
but the awareness has been huge for me. Just that awareness of, "Oh, that's what happened," or, "That's what I was doing," or, "That's why my response was a 9 and it should have only been a 2 or 3," you know?
Yeah. Yep.
These moments. Um,
Yeah, and I think there's this, when we talk about, living with grace,
mhm.
I think there's this misunderstanding that we often have um, that our life as a disciple is linear, right?
Mm,
And it should be going up, but we all know it goes down. And we picture it like a chart that zigzags like this.
mhm,
But that's really not it at all. That it is in fact cyclical with penetrating depth.
mm.
That what I'm learning now I'm I'm gonna be struggling with something else. It's not like, "Oh, I'm up and now I'm down." Like, there's one part of me that's learning a hard lesson, and there's another part of me that things are going really well, and, it's not this
Yeah,
simplified two-dimensional, trajectory that we're
yeah,
on, but that the Lord is always still taking us deeper. Um,
yes,
and that's always helpful for me to remember, that it's not a line, and if
yeah.
it's going down, I'm failing, you know?
Right, that's not true too, right? And
Mhm,
that it's who is the woman I'm becoming as
mhm.
I work through this, right? This
Yep,
struggle with maybe getting up in the morning to do prayer time,
yep,
or the struggle of I'm not gonna put my stress onto my children, right? How can I recalibrate, right?
mhm,
And it's who we become in those moments,
yeah,
that really is the test, right? It really is that test of time, and
mhm,
it brings up a lot of other opportunities, like to humbly apologize to our children, right? Or to our spouse, right? So lots of other
mhm.
things we're learning along the way.
And I
I
hate having to do it, but I love what it teaches my kids when I have to go to them and sincerely say, "What I did wasn't right, and I'm sorry."
yeah,
Because I want them to be the kind of people, who apologize.
right, right. Yep.
And so I can't just tell them to do it. I need to do it to them,
Mhm, mhm.
and respect them enough to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think for me, um the beauty of my husband, you know, forgiving me, and we have a
Mhm.
conversation about it,
Yeah.
and we understand each other better. It gives depth to our marriage as well in those
Yep.
moments, right?
Yep.
Um, I just want to pivot just a little bit because I know
Sure.
that I work with a lot of clients who are and women in coaching and mentoring them. Um, they struggle with this idea of, how can I be a working woman, contributing to a mission or a job or society in this way, and also be a good mom and
Mhm.
and spouse. As a working mom, how did you discern that that was the right choice for your family?
Yeah, there's a simple answer and there's a complicated answer. The simple answer is God just keeps asking me to be. Very, very simply, when we had our, um, door keep opening up, right? But the more interesting organic answer, um, when I was so my husband and I, when we got married, we had been friends for 11 years before we even went on our first date. So we knew all each other's stuff, right? With very few secrets left by the time we started
Yes.
dating. So baggage claim was real easy. Um, but so not a lot had been left unsaid or we hadn't talked about. But when we got pregnant with our first child, I remember thinking to myself, "Oh no, we haven't talked about this. We've never talked about like me working or not." And in my head, I was like, "No, like there's still the a." In prayer, it was clear the Lord was still asking me to do the work I was doing at the time. I was a parish youth minister. Um, and I was like, "Oh, how do I bring this up? Like, am I gonna crush his dreams of what he thought his family was gonna be like?" So I, like, avoided the conversation like we are all so good at, and,
Mhm.
one day out of nowhere, Jason says to me, he said, "You know, I've just kinda always pictured, life with having kids that I'd get married, we'd have a baby, and my wife would stay home because that's how I grew up. But you wouldn't be very happy, would you?" And the fact that he recognized that and articulated it and was like, "Cool, then that's what we're gonna do," um, was so beautiful. I was like, "I feel so seen," you know? We always joke because people
Wow.
will say things like, "Oh, why do you have to work?" Um,
Oh.
the answer is I don't have to work, for financial reasons. I choose to, and that's my answer. And his answer is, no, you have to work because you would be terrible to live with. Um, and again, it's not one way for anybody, but yeah, the Lord just keeps opening doors and asking me in very, very clear ways to walk through them.
Mm,
There was a moment where at my last job I was dissatisfied. Um, I'm I'm a doer, like we said, and it was a job where I didn't have a lot to do, and I'm like, "Why are my kids in daycare and I'm sitting here doing nothing?" Like, that's not a good use of my time. This isn't really what I want for my life and our family. Like, I wanna be contributing. And then all of a sudden, this door opened for me to come and work for Net Ministries, which is near and dear to my heart because I came here as a missionary at 18. And they're so responsible for my formation. It's where I met my husband. I really
mm.
believe in their mission. And the door just flung open. And for me to, it was clear that that's what the Lord was asking me to do. So it's a constant discernment. It's discussion. But he asked me and I said yes. So
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And it doesn't come without challenges. I mean, just
no.
because you really discerned and you feel that this is God's direction for you, there's still
Mhm.
challenges that come with that. And also just continuing to discern it. It's not one and done.
Right.
Right, right. And would you say it is, doing the job that you're currently doing, would you say that it is a big part of how you contribute to the church and to
Mm.
society and to the world?
Yeah, very much so. Just the other night, my 8-year-old came home from school. She said, "Do you know anybody who isn't religious?" I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun." It's like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I do." Um, she said, "I met a boy at school today who said he is not religious, um, and he asked me why I was." And I was like, "Oh, how did that make you feel?" And her eyes teared up and she goes, "It made me so sad." I said, "Tell me why it makes you feel sad." Um, and she said, "Because I just want everyone to know Jesus is love."
Oh,
Um, and actually, no, she said, "I want everyone to want Jesus is love," because this boy told her he didn't want to be religious. And that was her nomenclature. I was like, "This is a great opportunity. This is what I do for work. This is what I should be doing. When I get distracted, I forget that everything we do is about helping young people come to know and love Jesus Christ, even those who don't want to know him. I can at least give them something beautiful to maybe encounter him."
mhm.
And she looked at me and goes, "That's why I want you to go to work every day." But but
Oh,
she could see the connection between the 2.
yeah.
Now obviously mine is very clear. I work
Yes.
in ministry. I'm making films about the moral life right now, like it's very concrete how it
Yeah,
relates, to the good. I have friends who work in government. I have friends who are
mhm,
teachers, and
mhm.
it's not always that concrete and that direct, but it's no less for them.
Yeah.
And I think that there's this maybe it's something that I bought into that it's really hard to be a working mom. No,
Mm.
it's hard to be a mom. Like
Period.
and
Period. End of story.
I feel like when people say that, it dismisses the hard work and the hard choices that stay-at-home moms make.
Yes.
That we've put, like, the difficulty, like, "Oh, that's I just couldn't do that. That's so hard for you." Like, no, being a mom is hard. We're just choosing different brands of hard.
Mm.
Um, but I just don't think we should, diminish the difficulty that it is to be a stay-at-home mom either.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
This is what God's asking me to do. God is asking somebody else to do that.
And I think it's a gift too that our children, myself too. I mean, Eddie, I've been working his whole life as well,
Mhm.
and feel called, very much
Mhm.
called to and again, like you, I think my decision and path has been a bit more clear because it is about ministry and serving the
Mhm.
church.
Yeah.
And so as we go in different directions, but to see your child like for our child, like I see Eddie just bringing joy to so many other people's lives that he wouldn't have the opportunity to if we were, if I was a total stay-at-home mom, right? And he
Yeah.
didn't wasn't had that exposure, right? And it's so beautiful to see how God uses all of those moments
Mhm.
and helps those little people grow and us grow and our
Yeah.
husbands grow too, right? Because
Yep.
the choice of running your own business or being employed outside your home
Mhm.
require, I think, more conversation with your
Mhm.
spouse,
Yep.
more teamwork, a division of
Mhm.
tasks. I think that are a little bit different maybe than if I
Yep.
mean I were home all day long and the dishes and the laundry and those things wouldn't have to be as shared as much, right? Responsibility. And I think those are good things. I think those are very
Mhm.
good things for our marriages and our families
Mhm.
and our church and even our work. Um
Yeah.
and I know you specifically have a I don't want to call it a cross, but I know you have a daughter that was recently diagnosed with epilepsy, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
how has that impacted your life and your family?
I don't think there's an area of our life that it hasn't impacted.
Mhm,
It's been everything. So she was not quite 5 years old, and had a seizure at the dinner table. She doesn't have grand mal seizure, she doesn't fall. Um, her body contorts to one direction, she loses consciousness, she
mhm,
doesn't realize they're happening. But, she had we are very, very blessed, in the world of yeah, I even question that language. I'm very grateful that in the world of epilepsy, her seizures can be controlled by medication. That is not the case for every person who has epilepsy. Um, if she was unmedicated, she would have 3 to 5 seizures an hour. It's pretty severe. Um, and
mhm,
it affected everything. The medication she's on changes her personality. I've watched it affect the relationships with the other kids. There's things that are difficult that didn't used to be difficult. Um, and um, it has made us lean into one another as a couple in ways that we might not have needed to.
mhm.
It's forced conversations with our kids about hard things. And even with her, and she's amazing. Kids are so flippin' resilient. They're amazing. Um, but in some ways, God doesn't cause suffering, but He allows it
Mhm.
for our salvation. And in some ways, I think He's bringing about my own salvation in this because talk about something I cannot control. Um,
Yes, right.
Woo! Um,
Yep.
and and like, even when I say, like, and things are when things are going well I have a 6-year-old that I need to give 12 pills a day to in order for things to go well. So it's all part of this dance.
Mhm.
Um, but in that, it has broken me down in some really key ways. And it sucks. I hate it. Um, but that's good. I don't think I'm supposed to like this.
Right,
I don't think we're supposed to like watching our children suffer.
right, right.
But it's where we're at, and God is bringing good out of it.
Mm.
So
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think it's just an example of, right, we're just juggling and we're trying to keep all the balls in the air. And like you said, what does it take to keep them all there?
yeah,
12 pills, morning prayer, you know what I
yeah,
mean? The conversation with my husband,
yep,
all of those routines and those schedules that help us along with God Almighty, right? Surrounding us
mhm,
and turning to Him in those moments of feeling helpless, right? And
mhm,
knowing that He's chosen you to be her mother,
yeah, yep,
right?
which is
And
very humbling.
right, right.
Mhm,
Oh my goodness, my goodness. What is you have so much going on and have to pivot all the time. I mean, we talked about a couple big pivots today. I mean, obviously
mhm,
your daughter's health concerns, work choices, those types of things. But what's one piece of advice that you would give to any woman out there, whether she's a mom or not, because single women or have a lot of pivoting to do too, you know?
Mhm.
What piece of advice would you give them to be so that they can be resilient
Mm.
in the dance of life?
I I have to laugh a little bit when you're asking me questions about dancing.
Oh,
So yes, uh, in high school, I was like the theater kid. I didn't do sports, I did theater, shocker.
yeah, great shocker.
And I was in West Side Story, which is super fun, and, but there's a lot of dancing in it, and
Mhm.
there was this one number that was just hard for me, and you can't tell on camera, but for those of you out there, I am not quite 5 feet tall, like, my personality does not match my body, um, at all. So, the choreographer came up to me at one point, and she's like, "So, here's the thing, you're too short to be in the back row, but," and I was like, too bad to be in the front, right?" Yeah, so their solution was to create a line and put me at the end of it, and when they were doing the more complicated stuff, they danced me off of stage.
Oh my
So I'm
gosh.
standing backstage, I was just waiting for my turn, and then like, "Hey, come back out."
Oh my
So
gosh.
I have, like, empirical evidence that I am in fact a bad dancer.
Wow.
So anyway, when you asked me that question, I was like, Man,
Mm.
just be bad at it." Um, actually, I think there's something to that, like,
Right, right.
be
We
willing
do.
to
Yeah.
be willing to do it badly.
Mm.
Be willing to be a bad dancer.
Ah.
Because we need to rely on the one who's leading the dance.
Mm.
And so if I were to give one piece of advice to women in the craziness of things is keep in the forefront of our minds that we are not the ones in control,
Mm.
whether it's good or bad, that we are not the ones in control, that all is grace. And all is the Lord's. And when I can lean into that more, I am happier. I am a better mom. I am better at my job, like all of the things. I'm a better wife when I can remember that I cannot control everything.
Yeah, yeah. And to find peace in that, right?
Mhm,
To find peace in that moment and joy in those moments. And it's building that trust muscle, right? And
mhm,
so many other skills, but it's beautiful. A reminder for myself too, and for all those who are listening. So if you are out there and you know that your life is just it feels chaotic and there's a lot of pivoting you're having to do, or you know that things are coming up that you're going to have to with the holidays coming, lean into him,
mhm,
and be grateful for what you do have. Gratitude also changes our
mhm,
attitude about life.
mhm.
And Annie, thank you so much. Thank you for the inspirational woman you are in my
Thank
life
you.
and in just as a friend, as another mom out there, just doing our best to raise our kids in this world that can be a challenge sometimes. So thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes. Thank you. So
All right.
grateful for all the work you do, Amy.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye bye. We'll see you next
Bye.
time. Bye.